Making a start with our top story. After coming under fire over the falling prices of the rupee, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has decided to take matters in his own hand. After holding economic review meet with the top government officials, including the Finance Minister and Secretary, now the Prime Minister will take direct charge of measures that are needed to bring back growth in the Indian economy. This, as Sunday Guardian exposed a plot by some to deliberately bring down the value of the Indian rupee by creating speculations in the market that the Indian rupee is in a free fall. Sources tell us that this is the same group which had indulged in 2013 for deliberately shorting the rupee. The intent of this group is allegedly to ensure that the rupee falls as low as 100 rupees to the dollar. According to reports, the plot is to spread speculations in a section of business media that many UPA-era policies are being followed by North Bloc, which may lead to further fall in the rupee. Though it won't be very difficult for the investigative agencies to find out what brokerage firms and other financial agencies are involved in the ongoing operations through Singapore, Dubai, London and New York, even though these centers are outside the reach of the Reserve Bank of India.
Measures to rescue the fall of rupee. But if there are cases where the manipulation of rupee is happening, is conducted by various agencies or across the country and across the globe, then governments must seriously step in and stop the falling of rupee by getting into various actions.
So this remains the big story we are tracking for you. It seems there is a conspiracy at hand to deliberately target the Indian rupee and lead to its depreciation, which we have been seeing consistently against the US dollar. There are some agencies, some brokerage firms that are working with foreign interests to ensure that the rupee falls further, in fact possibly to even the 100 rupee mark against the US dollar. Let's get in further details from Managing Editor Rishabh Gulati, who is joining us on the broadcast. Rishabh, take us through this big NewsX Sunday Guardian exclusive, which is uncovering what really is leading to the consistent depreciation of the Indian rupee.
I tell you this, in many years of journalism, sometimes you realize that amidst what we do in a day, what is the story and the only story and which will remain the only story for the next few days, and you mark my words on that. We've reached a position that we have gotten insider information on what exactly is happening in a very mysterious circumstance. Let me put some facts on the table before I put the information which Uday has already been talking to you about. What are the facts on the table? The facts on the tables are that all Asian currencies are currently weakening. That's a fact, and the Indian rupee is one of them. But for some reason, the Indian rupee is the worst performer in all these Asian currencies. So are there some fundamental forces, international forces at play? Yes, they are. But for some reason, the Indian rupee, the INR, is the worst performing of all these currencies, when the other facts of the economic fundamentals are different. Your FDI inflows at about $44 billion this year are strong and stable. They are about as high as we've ever been. When it comes to your forex reserves, they're not at its peak, but from 2014 to 2018, they are at the highest levels. Not at the peak, just short of the peak, but at the highest levels. Your stock market is at record highs. Your GDP growth is at the highest in 5 years. So all four fundamental parameters that define what a country's currency stability should be in terms of dollars coming in through FDI, dollars coming in through FII into the stock markets, in terms of GDP growth, are all stable within parameters. Can be better obviously, but within parameters. So despite all of this, the rupee is in some sort of free fall, and there are people out there who are predicting, and happily on a daily basis predicting, and sitting on channels like ours and saying it's headed to $100 a dollar. That means you're saying that a further 40% fall in the rupee is likely. Now every time this is being said, and here comes the information that we have put out, I want to draw some context to it. Some of our viewers might recall, and if you don't, very simply just pick up online, you can find a copy of the Sunday Guardian. This is the Sunday Guardian from 4th of February this year. This is a story we reported right here on NewsX, and this story spoke about That's the word there, right here. Have a look at this. A cabal in operation that was fundamentally trying to use market manipulation to hit fundamental parameters of the Indian economy. This story spoke about an October meltdown in share prices. I just mentioned the Sensex, the Nifty are at record highs. And the simple logic this was that there is a group of operators, some of them owing loyalties to previous regimes, some guided by profit motives, some currently still within the establishment, who have been operating for both profit and for politics to ensure that some sort of economic emergency hits this country before the general elections coming up sometime February, March, May, April next year. And this was reported on the February of this year, so many months ago. We are now in the September of this year, and here is the Sunday Guardian from today morning. And the lead article here on your screens, the headline is talking about what's happened yesterday in the Prime Minister's review meeting, in which he's taken charge of certain economic measures. But the devil is in the detail of this article, which is further expounding through the sources that have been accessed by the Sunday Guardian, deep and reliable sources, that this cabal is in operation to ensure that the first of the economic hits to the country is in the rupee. Now you'd think, oh, how can a group of people actually manage and manipulate a currency? Well, what is in operation right now, let me define it and then give you past examples. What is in operation right now is the usage of something called, and it's delineated here if I can get my camera person to zoom in, exchange traded currency futures. Now these are perfectly legal, globally accepted financial instruments, but the existence of these instruments allows entities to do something called short selling. Now some of you who are aware of what happened with the collapse in the 2008 of the US markets, Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, will be familiar with the term short selling. Short selling basically means that you dump either shares or currency on a market with the logic that they will fall further, then you can buy them back, repay the people you borrowed them from, and make a profit. It's very simple. If, for example, you think that a share is trading right now at 100 rupees per share, in a normal course of events, you would buy the share and hope that the share price rises and you make a profit. In short selling, is the opposite. You think that the share is currently at 100 rupees, is going to fall to 50. So instead of borrowing money to buy more shares, you actually borrow shares. So you borrow, let's say, 1,000 shares from someone, and you sell the shares. When the share falls, you buy back the shares, return the shares to the person you borrowed it from, and pocket the difference. That is called shorting the market. You can do the same thing in currency markets with the same speculation that the currency is going to fall further, and if a large number of shorts build up in the system, they force the currency to follow them. It's the economics of it is something that you can Google, and we're going to try to explain it further. But a large number of shorts have built up in these exchange traded currency futures, operating not necessarily only in India but in several global currency exchanges. Secondly, there has been, from what we've been given to understand, a very strong effort to create a perception in this country that for some reason, despite the economic fundamentals that I just told you, that the rupee is somehow still overvalued, that is going to fall further. Then there is, we've been given to understand, a group of traders, brokers, who, not out of political motive, but out of sheer profit motive, when you manipulate, profits happen, are trying to talk down the rupee further. So you put all these three things together, heavy shorting of the rupee, which is inexplicable, because yes, Asian currencies are not doing well, that happens in due course of events, but despite economic fundamentals, the rupee is the first performing. Something is dodgy there. What is dodgy needs to be examined by the regulators. In case of the currency, the fundamental would be the RBI. then this entire, must have heard a lot of this talk suddenly, oh my God, the rupee is going to hit 100. Where is this talk coming from? Are these honest speculators out there, or are some of them motivated speculators planting this information that, oh, there's panic and the rupee is going to hit 100, so that means more people sell and getting this herd mentality. And the third is the internal dynamics of brokerages and trading houses when they, as a cabal, start saying that this currency is actually going to go down and start telling foreign entities to start selling it. You put all these three things together and you have something called a run on the currency, which is what we're currently in, that every few days you're seeing the rupee at record lows. Record low, record low, record low, and all these people are suddenly talking about rupee at 100, which hasn't happened ever before. Now, in reference to context and for discerning viewers watching this broadcast out there, I would recommend two things. Number one, SundayGuardianLive.com. Okay, that's the address for the newspaper, which is our sister publication. Okay, just log on. You can open it up on your mobile phones. Read the article for a better understanding of what we've been given to understand is actually taking place. And the next thing I would recommend you do is Google a gentleman called George Soros. He's famously a billionaire who became infamous as the man who broke the Bank of England. And why he earned that moniker is something worth reading, because he is the man who bet against the British pound. And he won the bet and made billions, to the point that the British Exchequer, the Bank of England, the Chancellor of the Exchequer in England, had to make a decision to remove the British currency's linkage to gold. Big developments that took place. So it's been done before by manipulators betting against the currency. You'd think it's not possible that how can a group of people do it? Well, it can be done, it has been done. Not necessarily that everything right now is a conspiracy. But the idea over there is that we should be aware that there are either people feeding off the rupee devaluation and making it worse because of either profit or political intent, because it's good in a political season to paint the country in some sort of economic crisis. Further, that this entire thing could have been sparked off by manipulators who actually want this to happen. And there are two reports here in the Sunday Guardian. I told you one was in February of this year, which we publicized right here, showcased right here on NewsX, debated right here on NewsX. And this is the latest edition, worth reading and understanding. Uday.
Absolutely. And now, of course, the next part of the story is how it's going to be prevented. How this conspiracy now, which has been uncovered, is going to be prevented from actually leading the rupee to falling to that 100 mark in December. Because in a report, in fact, that we were playing out even yesterday on NewsX itself, Rishabh, we were speaking about how the government has formed a strategy to contain this rupee free fall, and the Prime Minister himself has decided to take charge of efforts to this regard.
Now, in a normal course of events, okay, if a currency is facing accelerated devaluation, what do? The only logical, time-tested and economic instrument that you have is the RBI to utilize its foreign exchange reserves. That's the bank of 404 billion, if I'm not mistaken, is where our foreign exchange reserves stand. To utilize this bank of foreign exchange reserves and actually be in a position to strengthen the rupee. Use your dollar reserve. Now, this is only a short-term solution, because you can't keep endlessly putting dollars into the market, because it depletes your reserve. The second, of course, is to hope that your intake of dollars or foreign currency increases. The third is to decrease your reliance on imports. Now, there's some import reliance which is inelastic, and fuel is one of them, which is the fundamental largest cost to our current account deficit. But there are other imports that you can curtail. Now, these are the economic measures that you can take. But if even a certain part of this is conspiratorial in nature, manipulative in nature, cabal-driven agenda in nature, then the solution has to be found in ensuring that that manipulation is targeted. So how do you target manipulation? Number one is by putting the facts out there. So here we are, for the people who are watching this broadcast, and hopefully will tell friends and colleagues, will go and read the articles, read and research the information yourself. This is publicly available information. Why don't you have a look at what our forex reserves are and chart them over the past 4 years? You'll see that they are at near the highest, not the highest levels, but near the highest levels in the past 10 years, in fact ever. Have a look at our FDI inflows. Have they suddenly dipped? They are relatively year on year, month on month there is variation, but year on year they're relatively stable at about 40 odd billion dollars. Is, in terms of GDP growth, are we suddenly tanking? No, actually we are at a 5-year high. So despite all of these things, why is the rupee not only falling but is the worst forming Asian currency? That educates us. It makes us ask questions. The second is, let's be equally skeptical of those people out there who are trying to create, we talk about talking up an economy, there's something that's talking down an economy, trying to create a presumption, and this is not only politics, the politics preys on it, but there are people within and without establishment who are trying to create this conversation. A lot of viewers watching this would have heard this, that oh my God, the rupee is going to fall to 100. Who are these people and why are they doing it? Okay, are they just being honest analysts? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Speculation, and speculation can be wild sometimes, so be it. There are bear markets and bull markets, and greed and fear is the definitive of all sorts of trade. But are they being speculative, or is there within the nugget somewhere, and we are doing a bit of the research also, a motivated attempt to talk down the currency and create a fear psychosis, not only in India but globally, that the rupee is not only down, it's going to go a lot further, maybe 30-40% further. Then fundamentally the government, the regulators, the RBI, the SEBI need to take a very close look at the entities that are involved in large-scale shorting of the Indian rupee. Now, who are these entities? Now, whether they be done on Indian exchanges or be done on foreign exchanges through these mechanisms that I was telling you about, incidentally, that were created in the last establishment, a lot of these mechanisms are globally recognized, not like these are illegal mechanisms. There's something is fishy in the mechanism itself, but in the application of the mechanism there can be some doubt, which is why regulators exist, right? So these regulators need to find out who are these people that are shorting the rupee, who are they linked to, and let's tell the Indian public that these are the entities globally that are taking a very bearish position on the Indian rupee to the point of shorting millions or hundreds of millions of dollars of the Indian rupee worth. And that is having a direct bearing on the rupee performance. These are fundamental questions. Our fundamental job, your job, my job, Uday, as journalists, fundamentally becomes to ask the right questions. Then try to find the answers, see the patterns, see the trends, and then try to seek the information, which is what we are doing. Does the fundamental economic statistics point to something fishy happening with the rupee? Yes, they do. Does it mean it is 100% fishy? No. But they point to something suspicious. Is there some large-scale shorting of the rupee going on? Yes, there is. To what extent and who is doing it? The regulators need to find out. We are doing our own research around it. Do we have some information from the inside indicative that there is something dodgy going on in this cabal? We've had this information since February and more information has come our way now. So in those fundamental tick lines, something suspicious is borne out. Now you ask the question, what can we do? I've delineated what we can do. But the fundamental thing is to be aware that currencies, just like stock markets, are not impossible to manipulate. People have done them in the past and people can do them. They can be done for profit motive and they can be done even for political motive. Let us not rule that out. Uday.
All right. Well, Rishabh Gulati, thanks indeed for joining us with all those live details. And as you said, our viewers too can get more details of this story on the Sunday Guardian website. And of course, the newspaper has been published. Shri, I have a copy of that in my hands. It's of course the top story on the front page. Let's open this up now. We have a special panel joining us for further reactions on this. Gopal, Krishna, Agarwal, national spokesperson of the BJP in charge of economic affairs, joins us live. Mohammad Khan, spokesperson of the Congress, also on the broadcast with us. Gopal, Krishna, Agarwal, your first reaction to this NewsX Sunday Guardian exclusive, and do you also believe that there is obviously something at play which is seeking to sabotage the Indian rupee in the manner that was spoken about in the article and was being mentioned by Rishabh shortly ago on the program? And what really does the government plan to do about this?
No, I think the investigation definitely is required into this angle, But certainly we agree to one part of it when the basic economic, macroeconomic parameters with regard to foreign exchange reserves, with regard to FDI coming to India, with regard to fast GDP growth, with regard to fiscal deficit under control, and channelizing growth through government spending, and with regard to resolution of NPA. There has been a very specific concerted effort by the government over last 4.5 years, and with regard to corruption and controlling the leakages into system, all things say that there is a healthy growth in the economy, and this is being accepted internationally also, whether it is World Bank report, IMF report, domestic report. So therefore this fall on rupee is something which has to be investigated. Is it only because of the emerging market economy currency falling, or merely because of the strength of the dollar? Definitely there is some strength gain in the dollar, and there are factors which are having an effect, global effect. But is there a domestic factors also, and would you investigated?
Would you also see your opposition hand in this too as well, Gopal Agarwal? No. Would you also see an opposition hand in this, according to you?
Yeah. No, I tell you one thing is that at the time of when Mr. Chidambaram was the finance minister, definitely Mr. Karthik Chidambaram and his team of persons had a very strong manipulative tactics and hands in the capital market. That point of time also it was an open secret that the stock markets are being manipulated, how there was structured financial deal with regard to this security transaction tax, capital gain, how the money was flowing, Hawala transaction was being fueled with the help of shell companies. All these issues are being investigated by the investigation agencies, and Karthik Chidambaram and his team and many other manipulators are expected to be part of this whole scenario. So there were structured financial deals, there were policy intervention with help into this. So therefore I think the government should investigate into these point of time whether the same cartel is this acting into this thing is.
All right, let's get a response then from the Congress. Mohammed Khan is with us live as well. Mohammed Khan, your first reaction to this, the details of the NewsX Sunday Guardian exclusive, which of course you are aware of as well, Mohammed, and your response to the charge now being leveled by the BJP that perhaps there could be opposition hand, perhaps there could be a UPA era politician's hand in this cartel that is responsible for the rupee free fall as well. Mohammed, can you hear me? Alright, I think we've just lost Mohammed there, it seems. I'll just try and get him back in just a couple of moments. But, you know, going back to you, Gopal Krishna Agarwal, how will this be tackled then? As you're saying that it needs to be investigated, the cartel hand, of course, will need to be investigated and exposed and immediately stopped and disrupted if, of course, it is found to be correct, according to your investigation agencies. However, what really is the government doing about controlling the rupee free fall? You know, we've seen high-level economic meets this whole week. Wednesday was the CCEA, then there were 2-day meet on economic review with the Finance Minister, the Prime Minister, of course, involved yesterday, and other high-level economic officials, including advisors and whatnot. We believe the Prime Minister also himself is spearheading efforts to control the rupee free fall. What really is the government doing about this concretely, Gopal Agarwal, so that a difference is made?
The one thing is that we have to create awareness that among the people that the government is completely in control of the situation. Our fundamentals are very strong, and it is being accepted globally that Indian economy is moving in the right direction and at a fast pace. And these GDP growth figures are very well establishing those facts, and therefore, and the government has ample ammunition or measures to control these slide. We have foreign exchange reserves, we have the FDI flowing, and we have the GDP growth rate. And therefore, yesterday's meeting has also announced 5 important steps, and that I think it will help into control the sentiment of the falling rupee, and also with regard to the issues with regard to this strengthening of the rupee with masala bond, issuance of the masala bond in rupee denominated this bonds, and then going for ECB, allowing small manufacturing and large industries to get the loans from external corporate borrowings, and even removing the withholding tax also. This kind of issues, and removing the cost of hedging also. This will in itself reduce the cost, and I think those 5 steps are sufficient at present time to control this slide. And the important another thing is that when you mention these are also an indicator that the government should get into these facts and ultimately should investigate these angles. Are there global factors alone which is doing it, or there are manipulation with regard to some tax havens and other hawala transactions also should be seen, and there every possibility of cartel being built with the help of domestic players also. And this government will, I think, is taking cognizance, and therefore Prime Minister has taken upon himself to get into the whole issue. And today's yesterday's meeting with regard to the Finance Minister's detailed presentation of all the departments also reiterates that the economic conditions with regard to fiscal deficit, which can have a negative effect from the rupee fall, the ministry will be able to meet its target with regard to capital expenditure in investment.
Gopal Agarwal, just stay with me. I want to just tell our producers to please try and get the Congress's Mohammed Khan back on the phone. We have technical trouble there, fair enough, but let's try and get him back on the phone because it's important to get a Congress reaction on this story. But let me go back to Gopal Agarwal till then. Okay, I'm being told we do have Mohammed Khan. Yeah, Mohammed, go ahead.
Yeah, Uday, first of all, I must say, you have given a desperate and a failing BJP a leg to stand on no matter how tenuous, because there's nothing the BJP loves more than an unnamed, unidentified source for their own inadequacies and incompetence. Gopal bhai, let me tell you something. All these absurd allegations you are making, first of all, serve to only embarrass you. This is a story that has not been investigated yet. If you start placing reliances on stories, even if they are prestigious organizations like the Sunday Guardian, then you have abdicated your responsibility of investigation. I tell you this because 4 weeks ago, your leaders, your senior cabinet ministers were on dais proclaiming that the fall of the rupee was a natural consequence of international events. Now, at that time, this particular bogeyman had not arisen. Second, this is not something that has occurred overnight. I was listening to Rishabh's example of George Soros. Now, that example I would respectfully differ and as saying that it is not appropriate here because we have been seeing a widening current account deficit for over a year. We've seen investors turning to foreign banks and external commercial borrowings because rates in India to them are not favorable and banks are not lending or are not keen to lend because of the sharp increase in NPAs. We are seeing a depleting amount of forex reserves on your watch. You have the audacity to turn around after you have so grossly mismanaged the economy for 2 years, actually 4 years, and then say that no, it's because of a bogeyman who's shorting abroad. I dare you on behalf of the Congress, and I challenge you. Either you're the weakest government in the history of this country or the most incompetent. I think both are true, actually.
Okay. I will allow Gopal to respond to that, Mohammed, but very quickly, are you then disputing the entire cabal details and the entire foreign nexus to the weakening rupee? Are you completely disputing that and disagreeing with it? Mohammed Khan?
Yes, regard for, the Sunday Guardian and the work you guys do. And of course, if you are indeed confident there is such a cabal operating, then what is this government doing? Why are they asleep at the wheel? This is the first we've heard. With this disclosure should have come from the government. As Rishabh was saying, these are publicly obtained documents. So what was the government doing? Was they asleep at the wheel for 4.5 years?
All right. Let Gopal come in now. Let Gopal come in now. You made those charges and you made your point. Let Gopal Krishna Agarwal respond to you. Gopal, yes. Go ahead.
The issue is, Uday, and I would like to tell Mr. Mohammed Khan is that the Congress policy is to speculate on every issue, whether it is the defense deal or whether it is into various issues. But I would like to ask Mr. Khan whether macroeconomic parameters at what they had left in 2014, are they not very strong then and improved over that period from that time?
Okay.
Can they deny the control in the inflation? Can they deny the fall in the fiscal deficit? Can they deny the control in the current account deficit? Can they deny the...
So allegations versus counter allegations clearly on this story. I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up because we are completely out of time. But this is a story we will be tracking on NewsX. My thanks to Mohammad Khan of the Congress and Gopal Agarwal of the BJP for joining us. Thanks to Rishabh who joined us earlier as well. Quick break on that note.